Good afternoon. Our guest today is Mamadou Diane Balde, who is UNHCR's Regional Bureau Director for the East and the Horn of Africa and the Great Lakes and Regional Refugee Coordination for the Sudan situation. He will be joining us briefly in a short time from Sudan to brief you on the challenges faced by people in the conflict there. Also, just to let you know that, as you well know already, Mr. Bathily, the Special Representative, the Secretary General for Libya, is just briefed the Security Council, and he will then brief you at the stakeout. We will let you know, and it'll be after we're done here. Why don't I just, since we will have a briefing on Sudan, just to give you a bit of a broader humanitarian update. Our colleagues in the Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs say they're deeply concerned about the impact of renewed fighting in several parts of the country, including South Darfur and South Kordofan. In South Darfur state capital, Nyala, at least 60 people have been killed and 250 injured in recent clashes. As many as 50,000 people have fled the violence. Meanwhile, ongoing fighting is preventing trucks from carrying urgently needed humanitarian relief to reach Nyala. In Kadugli, in South Kordofan, humanitarian partners report that food stocks have been almost depleted. Renewed clashes have driven more people from their homes. We, of course, call on the parties in Sudan to cease hostilities and allow for the delivery of life-saving assistance to civilians. Turning to the Democratic Republic of the Congo, the head of the peacekeeping mission there and the special representative of the Secretary General, Bintou Keita, today condemned in the strongest possible terms the attack that took place earlier this week in the Samboko area in Ituri. According to initial reports, 25 civilians were killed while several others were wounded in an attack that was allegedly carried out by the Allied Defense Forces. For several weeks now, the UN mission and the Congolese armed forces have been carrying out joint operation in Ituri and North Kivu, strengthening security arrangements and thwarting several attacks. The mission expressed its readiness to support any investigation into this latest attacks, and Ms. Keita reiterated her call for an immediate end to violence against civilians by all armed groups. Turning to Ukraine, we, along with our partners, have launched an initiative appealing for $268 million to be able to support more than 1.3 million people with specific assistance in the coming winter months. The war has severely damaged homes, energy, water, and gas infrastructure, putting millions at extreme risk during the cold season, which in Ukraine normally starts in October and runs through March. Temperatures could drop to as low as minus 30 degrees Celsius. For this winter, we and our partners will prioritize emergency repairs to homes in the frontline communities. We will also provide clothes, heating appliances, and other winter supplies. We will also prioritize repairs in displacement centers, financial aid to displaced people to ensure they can pay rent or utility bills. Aid organizations will also help with repairs to ensure that municipal heating systems are working. The response will build on efforts made during the last winter when humanitarian organizations reached 2.2 million people with similar services and distributed over 4,000 generators amidst a severe energy crisis. You may have seen that the UN mission in Kabul in Afghanistan released a report today saying it recorded credible reports of serious human rights violations by the de facto Taliban authorities against hundreds of former government officials and former armed forces members. The report, which covers a period from the Taliban takeover of August 15th to June 30th of this year, documented at least 800 incidents of extrajudicial killings, arbitrary arrest and detention, torture and ill treatment, and enforced disappearances carried out against individuals affiliated with the former government and security forces. The mission noted that this came despite an announcement by the Taliban authorities of a general amnesty for former government officials and former members of the Afghan Defense and National Security forces. More information is online. Also, from the occupied Palestinian territory, in a press release, a statement issued today from the resident coordinator, Lynn Hastings, a warning about the precarious situation of some of the 1.3 million children that are returning to school this month. In the first 6 months of this year, more than 423 incidents impacting Palestinian children and their education were recorded. 3 schools were demolished by the Israeli authorities in the last 12 months. Her statement includes grim figures on child fatalities on both sides, recalling the safe access to education as fundamental right to all children. And this week marks the 6th anniversary, 6 years since over 700,000 Rohingya women, men, and children fled Myanmar to Bangladesh. They joined hundreds of thousands of other Rohingya who had previously sought refuge in the country. We mark this grim milestone, UNHCR is appealing for the international community to provide financial support to sustain the humanitarian response. UNHCR says that decreasing fund levels have led for the first time in the reduction of refugees' food assistance. Humanitarian agencies have appealed for $876 million this year to assist some 1.47 million people, including Rohingya refugees and their host communities. However, as of mid-August, funds were only provided for about 28.9%. And lastly, today is the International Day for commemorating the victims of acts of violence based on religion, belief. In his message, the Secretary General underscores that freedom of religion and belief is an inalienable human right, yet people and communities face intolerable discrimination and threats in their places of worship. He urges everyone to speak out against hate or incitement to violence. Edith Lederer.
Thank you, Steph. The end of last week, you had said that the envoy from West Africa, Mr. Santos Chamau, was going to Niger. We never heard anything about his trip. Can you tell us what he did and who he talked to? And today, the African Union suspended Niger.
Yeah, I mean, he was in, he spent about 24 hours on the ground, met with some military officials and others. They put out, his office did put out a press release, I think, early yesterday morning, which we'll send to, which will have a bit more details.
And a second question on a totally different subject. The Turkish president and the foreign minister today have strongly criticized the United Nations, calling it biased for criticizing the attack on UN peacekeepers by Turkish Cypriots trying to construct a road in the buffer zone in Cyprus. Does the Secretary General have any reaction?
First of all, I think some of the statements were made, as far as I understand it, in reaction to the statement issued by the Security Council, which is not for me to comment on.
That is true, but the Secretary General...
I know. However, I did see some comments regarding the activities of peacekeepers. We, of course, stand by the work of the peacekeeping mission in Cyprus. The peacekeepers in Cyprus acted in accordance with their mandate. And I think the Secretary General was very clear in condemning the assault against those peacekeepers, as we condemn clearly any assault against any UN peacekeeper serving around the world. And we reiterate once again our long-standing call on the parties to refrain from taking any unilateral action that can raise tensions or compromise efforts to find a mutually accepted way forward in Cyprus. Toshi and then Benno.
Thank you, Stéphane. I have a question on Japanese government decision to discharge water from Fukushima nuclear power plant. I know there's a IAEA report, but there has been concerns from local fishing industry and as well as neighboring countries How do you think Japanese government should deal with those concerns?
Look, as far as the situation regarding the release around Fukushima, from the only UN involvement is a technical assessment done by the only UN agency that has the technical capacity and oversight on this, and that's the IAEA. And we defer to them on their decision. They've made the recommendation, and I would refer you to IAEA. I don't have any specific comment on the activities or the policies of the Japanese government. Benno Schwinghammer.
My question is about the wildfires in Greece. 18 bodies have been found today, and initial reports suggest that they may have been migrants. Do you have any comment?
I don't have any. Let me put it this way. It is horrific that people die in a wildfire, regardless of who those people are. The wildfires in themselves are yet another, and that we're seeing all over the world right now. I mean, we saw them in places where they rarely happen, such as Hawaii. We're seeing them ongoing in Canada. We're seeing in Tenerife. We're seeing record temperatures throughout Southern Europe. Yet another manifestation of the deadly impact of climate change. Yvonne, and then Deji.
Thanks, Steph. The Kenyan reconnaissance mission is going on in Haiti this week. They'll be meeting UN representatives on the ground, I believe. What will they be discussing, and can you give us a readout of those chats?
In fact, they met yesterday with our colleagues in the political office in Binu with the Kenyan delegation. From our part, we briefed them on the mission's mandate and more specifically on the support that the UN provides the Haitian National Police Force. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. You know, I mean, this is, as far as we understand it, an initial mission for a non-UN multinational police force. I think it's only normal that they speak to us. We explain to them the situation as we see it, what we are already doing with the police force. It's very important that whatever force gets deployed, while not a UN force, works. I mean, has an understanding of what the UN has already done and what the UN's mandate is. Deji.
Just to follow up on the Japanese government's decision to dump the water, you just mentioned that the IAEA report. The IAEA report even said that they are not responsible for this. I mean, it's Japanese government's decision to do that. So we know that the Secretary General actually said a lot about the water safety. Just now, Paulina even said it's a safety issue and water-related issue. Should this be concerned by the Secretary General, the decision by the Japanese government? Because this is going to be a 3 decades-long operation.
Look, what I can tell you is that in terms of making an assessment from the UN standpoint, the competent authority on this is the IAEA. The UN system is rather large, right? Different agencies have different competencies, from health to nuclear-related issues to postal issues to intellectual property. Different agencies have different competencies. On this issue, it is the competency of the IAEA. They are doing the work, and I think if you have questions as to how they came to that assessment or what it means, I think that should be directed to them.
So, technically speaking, if Japan started to dump the water into the sea, there's no borders of the sea. Should Japan first get agreement with other countries on this?
Again, I mean, I have nothing more to say on this at this point. Okay, we shall welcome our guest from are you in Port Sudan?
Yes, Iftikhar.
Oh, sorry, I'm sorry. Hold up. Before we go to the guest, we have one more question. Iftikhar, go ahead, please. Sorry.
Okay.
I
Can you hear
assume
me?
you're not in Port Sudan, Iftikhar.
Regarding this disturbing report you read about Afghanistan, does the Secretary General have a comment on that? And secondly, will the UN, there be any action at the United Nations?
Well, our reaction is really to support and echo what Volker Turk has said on this issue, which is for the de facto authorities to very carefully look at this report, consider the findings, and to uphold their obligations under international law, and to hold those people who've committed what could potentially be these crimes be held to account.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. We will now go to our